you see in one of those boxes. We can spread them out if you want. Take it. Or it won't be there later. We're getting rid of them, so go ahead. Make my day. Take a book, carry it away. All yours, Patrice.
Thank you. No, thanks for reminding me. Listen, and we told Claire this.
Yeah.
Those of you who have grandchildren,
Yeah, they're good books in there.
I see a few people out there. There's primarily children's books, and I think they're primarily from Judy's stash.
Right.
And some of them are very, very nice children's books.
Right.
So if you want to have some children's books at your house that you don't have to pay for, and are probably nicer than you would have gotten anyway, please look out. In my house, we can never have too many children's books. That's just my opinion. But yes, thank you, Gary. Good intro.
You're welcome. It's a segue.
It was a segue to something more organized, really?
Segue.
A segue. Segue is a word that transitioned from, I guess, radio. Radio. A segue was what happened when you were playing a song on the radio and then the DJ or the engineer would switch to a different song. That would be a segue. And so now that's come into modern parlance of what comes next.
The transition.
Yes. French. Oh, it's such a French word. Oh, French is such great words. Yes. Hi, good evening.
Hello.
If I'm acting a little wiggy, I'm just reflecting the times we live in. It's going to be my excuse. I have no idea about this announcement about the 2020 and the 20. I have no idea. People, okay, personal note. Please remind yourself, just because John knows something does not mean that I know it. Especially when it comes to, have you heard this about the congregation? No, I haven't. No. I told John this. I don't know it. I have no clue what you're talking about, but do go on. Because even though in theory we love each other, we see each other every day. He calls me if he's away. If you've told him something, don't assume I know it. In fact, assume I don't know it. So, and we'll all be happier that way, won't we? Okay. Anyway, I don't know anything about this, so I cannot answer questions about it, but who should they see if they wanted to talk to somebody about what this means? You?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so we have here a willing person in the front row. I did notice this today. Don't forget, this weekend, whether you want it or not, daylight savings time returns. And some of you go, yay. I saw some of those people online going, yay, and I'm just going, okay, does this really affect anything but this about the sun? No, but you go if it makes you happy, if it makes you happy. Ohr Chadash financial update for those of you who care. There is still on the table in the foyer, there is the report for the whole year, correct? I saw it last week where there's still some left. Good. Okay, if you're interested in all the decimal points and what was spent and what was gained, go right ahead. That's for your edification and enjoyment. Once again, we concentrate on the fact that we need money to keep the building going because we do not have a landlord. We are our own landlord, which means we must come up with our own payment for repairs, even though we don't get any rent monies in from people renting from us. So please keep that in mind. Please remember about the back door, and now this one now that it's been secured. Please do not have somebody, don't prop the door open, and please just don't let it clank behind you as you leave and there are still other people in the building. Please take the moment if you're going out this door or the one in the grand ballroom, that when you go out, you need to bash the bar in after it's open, and then let it go too. And then it should click reassuringly and not go clunk like bouncing off a piece of metal. You don't want to hear that clunk. It's bouncing off another piece of metal. Anything else that I can avail you? Anybody else have, tomorrow night, Purim, and that is on your flyer here, and it starts at 7 p.m. This year, it's not gonna be a full meal, it's not gonna be a potluck. Do we want you to bring anything? Yes, bring a snack and a beverage to share. It's going to be anything can happen. 1980s Purim party, and I was telling my adorable daughter, who actually remembers the 1980s, it was a thing for her. And she, people of a certain age want to go back to the 80s. Okay, that's fine with them. All I can remember is people wore coveralls a lot. Women and men wore, blue jean coveralls. I said, I don't have any coveralls to wear to the Purim party. And she just looked at me like, your daughter always looks at you after she gets to be the age of 8.5. Okay, so do what you can, but feel free to come. Anything else? Because John and I have an announcement. Okay? Yeah? Come on now. Okay, Mom and Dad have called this family meeting for you because we want to talk about that, something that has become a thing in our culture, especially this week. And we made some decisions, we had some input, and so we're going to tell you about how a few things are changing as far as health considerations. Yes, please.
Okay. How about now?
Yes. Which way?
Okay, cool. All of you know by now how much I just love to hug people. So this is going to be really tough on me. But with the guidelines that we've been sent from various places as well as governments, it has been suggested that for the time being we don't hug and we don't shake hands. So like I said, this is going to be very hard on me. So we are not going to hug or shake hands, either when we greet each other in general or when we greet each other during the time after the Torah reading, and we won't be doing any of it on the Bima on the platform either. So, shall we share with them some of our suggestions for alternatives?
We have nothing specific to put in its place. I think you're going to have to basically wing it for now. But in all cases, should nobody be offended if somebody doesn't want to hug you? Is that acceptable to say to you? Right. We love each other. In my mind, I'm hugging you, but it needs to remain in my mind. Okay, is that all right? And it's not because we're afraid of anything. None of us would want to feel responsible if somebody came down with something bad and it was our fault. I know nobody feels that they would like to feel that feeling. So we're just going to try to be as careful as we can without interfering too much in what we normally do at this point. So John and I came up with several things from various things. I said like the Roman salute, which is, and pound my heart because it wakes me up also. I salute you. The Oriental greeting, I like you, and I like you, and I'm hugging you. I'm hugging you in my mind. I'm hugging you. What else did we come up with? The salute. Oh yeah, we have the mork for mork, nanu nanu. Is that? That's so 80s. We should use that tomorrow night for sure. Yes, this is so 80s. Isn't that the 80s? Or huh? Oh, is that Star Trek? But mork for mork used to use it.
No, but it's Jewish, it's gotta.
Yes, it's the Jewish.
But we're talking about it as a cultural
The
thing.
cultural thing, the Aaronic benediction, yeah. Yeah, Leonard Nimoy, who did Spock, he knew where the Jewish priests did. Yes. Anybody else have anything that they can, I wouldn't want to do this, it's too military. I'm not trying to obey orders or something.
A simple.
Simple, hey. Or, oh, this?
Yeah.
I did. Okay. Well, you'll think of some, and I'm sure other very witty people will come up with others, but just wanted to let you know, in order not to offend you, because if John and I went, oh, don't be hugging me, you might take offense at that, so we don't want that.
Other things, wash your hands frequently, and the suggestion that we were given, and it's posted on one or the other of the doors, is when you first come into the building, wash your hands. If there's any reason to wash your hands, wash your hands. if there isn't any reason to wash your hands anyhow.
I usually check this bayside bathroom. That's the one I use all the time if I'm in the building. I rarely, if ever, go in the Oneg room, bathroom. So if one of the other of you would take it upon yourself to check that bathroom, that would be very, very nice. And by checking, I mean making sure it has soap, making sure it has paper towels, making sure it has extra toilet paper under the sink. As I said, I've been doing that for the Bayside room for many years. And realize that if there isn't one of those things, that if you go to the kitchen in one of the closets, there should be refills for everything. And if you can't find it there, look, your first recourse is to look under the sink to see if it's under there. You wanna talk about Kaddish?
Kiddush.
That one too.
Okay. You will notice that we will be doing a different procedure for Kiddush. There will not be
Tell them
one
what Kiddush is, or they won't know what it is.
Kiddush. The blessings over the wine and the bread.
That we do in the grand
On the
ballroom.
grand room, ballroom. We won't be sharing a community cup, so there won't be a Kiddush cup. There will be a Kiddush pitcher, and there will be little Kiddush cups. So you will take the pitcher and you will pour some wine in your cup. Now, for some of us, that takes a great deal of dexterity, so it goes in the cup and not on the floor. So just please keep that in mind. So that's the way we will be doing that for the time being.
Any questions about these specific processes or anything else you're worried about health processes? Yes, sir.
Breaking the bread, slicing the bread.
Good point. For those of you who used to just grab the bread and grab a handful, which is traditional, grab a napkin to hold the bread and grab a knife to cut. And then just grab the piece you're gonna have.
Yeah, you might want to have a napkin to hold the bread with.
Yes.
We have this problem when we go to Outback. How many of you go to someplace where they make you cut your own bread at the table? No, Patrice, just you go to those restaurants. Well, when we're at Outback Steakhouse, they bring out a little loaf of bread. And that's their normal way, and it's really good. And they give you a napkin that's wrapped all around it so that your hand's not going to be actually on the bread while you're cutting it there yourself. So I recommend that method. I also recommend that would be one of the things that we put away when it's finally been determined that we don't have to follow these health processes, because in my world, in my understanding, the reason why you grab your own piece of challah is because you don't want to use an instrument of torture and death around something that represents, I don't know, challah, something about challah and violence. But for the time being, I think we can flex.
Other questions?
Okay, we've put them to sleep, so that's helpful. When they sleep, they don't complain.
That's right.
That's right. Okay, I'll just transition. I'll segue into something, or do you want to just stay here? Anyway, thank you for being patient. I'm reminded that in all circumstances having to do with the earth we live on and the creations that we live among, that God is more concerned about any of these things than we are. And if at all possible, I think we should be in agreement with protecting and loving and caring for those around us and for our creation, because it's all a gift to us. And so I think we will all answer to Him if we have failed to live up to what we personally could have done. And that's a very, I think, noble thing to have as a goal, to do the best we can, to see that nobody and nothing comes to harm because of our lives. And so on that, here's my happy-faced, very, very handsome husband. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Oh, you didn't mention this.
No, I'll let you.
This was up here specifically as a reminder. because copies of this book are now available in the Oneg room. And by available, I mean for $10. If you try to buy this on the open market, it's $16. So feel free to take advantage of what's there as well as the other books there as well. And I think, oh, yes, and because we try to avoid the exchange of money after the service starts, then sometime during the week or before services next week, simply bring a check along or cash along to cover the cost of the book or any other books you might pick up at that particular point. And since we haven't quite officially begun or formally begun, let me reinforce something that Patrice mentioned, and that is that at this particular point in time, we're going through one of those low points that we go through periodically as a synagogue. So if there's something in addition to what you would normally give, this would be a really good time to give, and that's the reason for some of the details that are in the bulletin inserts. That being said, Richard, if you join me, and then all of you, if you join us, whoa.
This is the
Okay.
quarantine section.
Is it?
I'll go even it up, I think.
Well, thank you, Chief.
I'll get it up.
Okay, if you'd all join on pages 142 to 145 in the Siddur, there are a number of psalms that are traditionally done to welcome Shabbat. This is one of them, but this one is particularly apropos for this particular time of the season. It is on pages 142 to 145, that is Psalm 92. And as you will see, the emphasis of this particular psalm relates very nicely to what we are recalling during this time just prior to Purim. Because we talk about the God who not only has done great works, but as verse 9 says, for surely your enemies, O Lord, surely your enemies will perish. And my eyes have seen the defeat of my adversaries. That certainly is part of the story that we recall as God acted in a special way during Purim. So please join us on pages 142, 145. And we will do this in unison. That means all of us get to do this together. All right, ready? It is good to praise the Lord and make music to your name, O Most High, to proclaim your love in the morning and your faithfulness at night, to the music of the 10-stringed lyre and the melody of the harp. For you make me glad by your deeds, O Lord. I sing for joy at the works of your hands. How great are your works, O Lord! How profound your thoughts! The senseless man does not know. Fools do not understand that though the wicked spring up like grass and all evildoers flourish, they will be forever destroyed. But you, O Lord, are exalted forever. For surely your enemies, O Lord, surely your enemies will perish. All evildoers will be scattered. You have exalted my horn like that of a wild ox. Fine oils have been poured upon me. My eyes have seen the defeat of my adversaries. My ears have heard the rout of my wicked foes. The righteous will flourish like a palm tree. They will grow like the cedar of Lebanon. Planted in the house of the Lord, they will flourish in the courts of our God. They will still bear fruit in old age. They will stay fresh and green, proclaiming, the Lord is upright, he is my rock, and there is no wickedness in him. And because of his works and because of what he's done for us down through the years, and particularly at this season, it is truly good to praise the Lord and to make music to his name, as we have already done and will continue to do. And so we continue with our Ohr Chadash portion just a few pages earlier in pages 136 and 137. At the top of these pages, we have talked in terms of how good it is to praise our God, to reflect on what he's done for us as a group, but we also need to internalize that, personalize that. We do that as we remind ourselves he's done it not only for us, but for me as well. This particular section helps us do exactly that. As the text begins, Romama nafshi, Et Adonai yitagel ruchi belohei yishi. Together.
My soul praises the Lord, and my spirit rejoices in God my Savior, for he has been mindful of the humble state of his servant. From now on all generations will call me blessed, for the Mighty One has done great things for me. Holy is his name. His mercy extends to those who fear him from generation to generation. He has performed mighty deeds with his arms. He has scattered those who are proud in their inmost thoughts. He has brought down rulers from their thrones, but has lifted up the humble. He has filled the hungry with good things, but he has sent the rich away empty. He has helped his servant Israel, remembering to be merciful to Abraham and his descendants forever, even as he said to our fathers.
He has helped his servant Israel, even as he has brought down rulers from their thrones and has lifted up the humble. That's because he is, as we're now reminded on pages 10 to 13, Magen Avot, the shield of our ancestors, our rock and our fortress. And so we respond on those pages with that reminder, as well as that expression of gratitude that that's who he is and that's how he works on our behalf.
Magen Avot bidavaro, mechaye metim b'mamaro, ha'el hakadosh she'en kamohu, hamediach le'amo, be'yom Shabbat kadesho. Kivam ratzal hadiach lahem, v'fenev na'avod b'yira b'pachad, v'nodei lishmo b'chol yom. Tamid me'en habarachot, el ha'odaot, Adon ha'shalom, makadesh ha'shabbat, u'marech shabi'i, u'meniach bi kedusha, le'amer yushne oneg. Zecher l'maaseh v'reshit. Zecher l'maaseh v'reshit. Together. With his word he was a shield to our fathers. By his decree he will give life to the dead. The holy God, with whom no other can compare, who provides his people rest each holy Sabbath day. In reverence and awe we will serve him daily, and every day we will thank him suitably. He is the God to whom all thanks are due, the Lord of peace, who makes the Sabbath special. He blesses the seventh day for his people, to give them joy and remind them of creation.
He's the Lord of peace who makes Shabbat special. It's special because it is, as we light the candles, we will be reminded that it's the guarantee that what he has done for us in the past as Magen Avot, shield for our ancestors, that he's committed to doing for the present and into the future.
Rukatar Anai Elohim Levakoman Miklak, Heolem Asher Keshanu Tetzaveh Tov, Visavanu Heolog, Ohr Olem Heotoman Lanu, Yeshua Mechikenu, Leolam. Blessed art thou, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who sanctified us for your commandments, and commanded us to be a light of the nations, and gave us Yeshua our Messiah, the light of the world. Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.
We turn now to pages 40 and 41 for Elohim Asher. It's a reminder that standing behind that guarantee is the one who acts as the guarantor for us. He is the one who's called the light of the world, and he's the one who in fact now sits in the place of authority in the heavenly realms, guaranteeing our destiny forever. And so we respond as we enter that throne room scene on pages 40 and 41.
Elohim asher diber mikadem pe'amim rabot uvidrachim rabot el havot beyad haneviim diber aleinu be'acharit hayamim ha'ele beyad ha'bein asher Sam leyoresh kol u'yado gam asa et ha'olamim u'zohar kevodo b'tselem asmuto v'noseh kol b'dvaro rav ha'gavura She'asa Ohr Chadash Yashav Limin Hamdullah. In the past, God spoke to our fathers through the prophets at many times in various ways. But now, in the end of days, he has spoken to us by the Messiah, his Son, whom he appointed the heir of all things, and through whom he made the universe. The Son is the full radiance of God's glory, and the flawless manifestation of his reality. He sustains all things by his powerful word. After he made atonement for sins, he sat down in the place of authority beside the majesty in heaven. True and firm, established and lasting, right and faithful, loved and treasured, desired and pleasant, feared and mighty, ordered and acceptable, good and beautiful is this word to us forever and ever.
He sits there awaiting his return, which we also anticipate as well. And it's built into the anticipation that's found in the Ohr Chadash, which is page 156 and 157. It anticipates the coming of the Messiah, as we do as well. And so we put our hearts fully into this response, as we should through all the responses, actually. But this is particularly appropriate in one sense for this particular time of year, because as the rabbis of old remind us, that Purim will play an important part in the Messianic age. In fact, it'll be a holiday that is celebrated forever, because it reminds us that our God, throughout history, has been with us, walked with us, and has taken care of us. And that will be the reality we experience again in the Messianic age. And so Purim is a reminder of the faithfulness of our God. And Ohr Chadash anticipates that time of the onset of the Messianic age, where Purim will play an important part. Pages 156 and 157.
Yigdal v'yikadosh shemer Rabban ve'alma divrachirute v'yamlich malchute v'yatzmach purkene v'karev mesheche v'chayechonu v'yomechonu v'chaye d'chol beit Yisrael v'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevorach, Le'olam Olam Le'omaya Yibarach. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevorach, Le'olam Olam Le'omaya Yibarach. V'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitale v'yithalal, Shmei Dekudashah berichu. Ve'ele min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim tovim aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Osei shalom bimrumav, u'yasei shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Glorified and sanctified be his great name in the world which is created according to his will. May he bring about the reign of his kingdom and cause his salvation to sprout and bring near his Messiah in your lifetime and in your days and in the life of all the house of Israel, speedily, yes, soon, and say, Amen. May his great name be blessed forever and forever eternally. Blessed and praised, glorified and exalted, extolled and honored, adored and lauded be the name of the Holy One, blessed be he, who is high above, far above all blessings and hymns and praises and consolations which are spoken in the world, and say, Amen. May there be great peace from heaven, and good life for us and for all Israel, and say, Amen. He who makes peace in the heavenly realms, may he make peace for us and for all Israel, and say, Amen.
He's the one who's called Magen Avot, shield for our ancestors, for also shield for us as well. He's the one who will cause his salvation to sprout and bring near his Messiah, hopefully in our lifetime and in our days. And since he is all that, then our next response is most appropriate. It is Ein Kamoka. There is no God like you, O Lord among the gods. Pages 88 and 89, we rise as we respond on those pages.
Ein Kamoka ve'Elohim Adonai, ve'ein kama'asecha. Malchutcha malchut kol olamim, u'memshalcha bechol dor, bechol dor hador. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimlok le'olam va'ed, Adonai oz le'amo yitein, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. And together, there is none like you among the gods, my Lord, and there is nothing that compares to your deeds. Your kingdom is a kingdom that endures for all eternity, and your sovereignty extends throughout all generations. The Lord reigns, the Lord has reigned, the Lord shall reign throughout eternity. The Lord will bless his people with peace.
We anticipate God's reign, but we also need to affirm it. We affirm it for each and every one of our lives now through the words of the Shema, pages 34 to 39, as we now face Jerusalem, the direction of the ark, and make this our personal affirmation. Pages 34 to 39.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Aved. Be'ata et Adonai Elohecha B'kol avacha u'b'kol nafshecha u'b'kol me'odecha Ve'hayu ha'davarim ha'eleh Asher Anoki mitzavcha hayom ha'levavecha V'shinantam levanecha V'dibartam V'shivtecha b'leitecha U'kleitecha b'derek U'v'shachlecha u'v'komecha U'v'shartam leot al yadecha Ve'hayu l'todot be'enecha U'v'kavtam al mezozot be'techa U'v'isharecha. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord alone. Blessed be he whose glorious kingdom is eternal. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your life, and with all your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as reminders on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates.
Our reading portion for tonight is only paragraph 6, not paragraph 7 is in the bulletin, but it's pages 76 and 79, and it includes the Purim editions. Because he is our God and has been our God through ages past. That's why we can thank him that he is our rock and our shield that saves through every generation. So utilize these words now as your response to our God at this particular season. Responding quietly. For the miracles, for the liberation, for the great power, for the deeds which you did for our ancestors in days of old, in those days, at this time. For all these, we thank your name. All the living, in fact, shall thank you and praise your name faithfully, because you are the God of salvation and deliverance. Baruch atah Adonai, ato shemcha ucha na'eh lahodot. Blessed are you, O Lord. Your name is good, and to you it is pleasant to give thanks. We continue now on pages 88 and 89 as we anticipate that time of the ultimate liberation, deliverance, and salvation in the time of the Messianic age. It's the time, as Vaya Ben Zohar reminds us, that from Zion will go forth the Torah and the word of the Lord out of Jerusalem, and all the world will recognize him as the one who is the Lord who reigns forever. pages 88 and 89.
Minso Aaron vayomer Moshe Kuma Adonagoya futzoy haka veyanusu mesanecha mipanecha Hi mitzion tetzei Torah Hi mitzion tetzei Torah Udevar Adonai mirushalayim Baruch shenatan Torah Torah Baruch shenatan Torah Torah Le'amo Yisrael v'kedushato. And it came to pass, whenever the ark went forward, Moses would say, Arise, O Lord, and let your enemies be scattered. May those who hate you flee from before you. For from Zion shall go forth the Torah, and the word of the Lord out of Jerusalem. Blessed be he who in holiness gave the Torah to his people Israel.
And now we respond to that gift. Our response is found on page 133. That will be the totality of our response tonight as the Torah processes among us. And we respond to this gift God has given.
The ark now unveils its treasure.
To our eyes and minds and hearts.
Inside the scroll of Torah stands.
It stands there with all its richness and wisdom.
As we listen, voices speak, voices of our ancestors.
Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Joseph, and Moses.
O God, they bring us your instructions for us.
Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, and Miriam
Speak to us as well.
O God, they move us to respond to your promises to us.
We are grateful for your words, the words of Torah.
Hear, O Israel, the Lord calls.
We will hear your words that we may learn them, love them, live them.
What does the Lord require of you? To fear him, love him, serve him, and walk in all his ways.
All
the Lord has said, we will do.
Mi shebarach avotenu, Abraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. May he bless Rabbi John. May he bless Celia. May he bless Jenny. And may he bless Diane, who have come up to honor God and the Torah. May the Holy One bless them and their families, and send blessing and prosperity on all the work of their hands. Baruch hu Adonai HaMavorach. Baruch Adonai HaMavorach Le'olam Vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu es Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen. Bless the Lord who is blessed. Bless the Lord who is blessed forever and ever. Blessed are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who chose us from all peoples and gave us the Torah. Blessed are you, Lord, giver of the Torah.
Okay, Hebrew students and scholars, front inside page of your bulletin. Please follow along reading quietly as I chant the portion. Ve'ata tetzaveh et b'nei Yisrael vayichu eleka shemin zayit zakati lema'or leha'olah ner tamid, which by the way was in the Ohel Moed. That was this next verse, but I thought it might be helpful. All right. And you are to charge the children of Israel to take up or to bring to you olive oil. It's to be pure and we would say processed, and it's for the for illumination or for the light, to kindle the light forever, continually. And in case you're wondering which light, that's why I added that, the one that's in the tent of meeting. Ner Tamid. By the way, that is called a Ner Tamid. It's a reminder of that which stood forever and burned forever. I'm sorry. Please be seated. It's a reminder of what stood and burned forever in the tabernacle and in the temple. And it's an amazing story, but that's not the story for tonight. So just as a reminder, because that was a reminder that God and God's presence was with them forever and in all places.
I'm reading from Exodus 29. Through all your generations, this is to be the regular burnt offering at the entrance to the tent of meeting before Adonai. There is where I will meet with you to speak with you. There I will meet with the people of Israel, and the place will be consecrated to my glory. I will consecrate the tent of meeting and the altar. Likewise, I will consecrate Aaron and his sons to serve me in the office of Kohen. Then I will live with the people of Israel and be their God. They will know that I am Adonai, their God, who brought them out of the land of Egypt in order to live with them. I am Adonai, their God.
And the Ner Tamid for us now is a reminder of that reality, that God lives among his people.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Blessed are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who gave us the Torah of truth and life everlasting planted in our midst. Blessed are you, Lord, giver of the Torah.
He is the giver of the Torah. It's a reality we reminded ourselves of in the readings for the last several weeks. And we reminded ourselves, we remembered that our ancestors stood before God at Sinai and not only said all the Lord has said we will do, but this is the word which the Lord, or the words which the Lord our God has provided us. So we now stand in their sandals as we too stand before him, and we acknowledge V'zot HaTorah. These are the words which the Lord delivered to us through the hand of Moses. Pages 98 and 99 is that text. If you need the transliteration, page 95.
V'zot HaTorah asher sama Moshe lifnei b'nei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. This is the Torah which Moses placed before the children of Israel. It is in accord with the Lord's command by the hand of Moses.
You may be seated. It's traditional at Purim to read through the Megillah. You see the Megillah standing there. But we won't read through the Megillah, or the whole of it, just the closing section of it. And the Megillah blessings are not found in your Siddur, but in the Machzor, which are in that back corner. But it was intentional that we left them back there. So just pay close attention not only to the Hebrew, but to the English of these blessings. They do tell us a story.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzevanu al mikra Megillah. Deserving of praise are you, O Lord our God, ruler over the universe, who hallowed us by your commandments and instructed us concerning the reading of the Megillah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa nisim la'avoteinu b'yamim ha'hem b'zaman hazeh. Deserving of praise are you, O Lord our God, ruler over the universe, who miraculously delivered our fathers in days of old at this season. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'echianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazaman hazeh. Amen. Deserving of praise are you, O Lord our God, ruler over the universe, who kept us alive and sustained us and privileged us to reach this season.
I'll be reading from Esther, chapter 8, verses 15 through 17, and chapter 9, verses 9 through 28. Meanwhile, Mordecai left the king's presence, arrayed in royal blue and white, wearing a large gold crown and a robe of fine linen and purple. And this city of Shushan shouted for joy, for the Jews all was light, gladness, joy, and honor. In every province and city where the king's order and decree arrived, the Jews had gladness and joy, a feast and a holiday. Many from the peoples of the land became Jews because fear of the Jews had overcome them. Mordecai recorded these events and sent letters to all the Jews in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus, both near and far, instructing them to observe the 14th day of the month of Adar and the 15th day every year, to commemorate the days on which the Jews obtained rest from their enemies, and the month which for them was turned from sorrow into gladness, and from mourning into a holiday. They were to make them days of celebrating and rejoicing, sending portions of food to each other and giving gifts to the poor. So the Jews took it upon themselves to continue what they had already begun to do. And as Mordecai had written to them, because Haman, the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, the enemy of the Jews, had plotted against the Jews to destroy them and had thrown Pur, that is, cast lots, to crush and destroy them. But when Esther came before the king, he ordered by letters that Haman's wicked scheme, which he had plotted against the Jews, should recoil on his own head, and that he and his sons should be hanged on the gallows. This is why these days have been called Purim, after the word Pur. Thus, because of everything written in this letter and what they had seen concerning this matter and what had come upon them, the Jews resolved and took upon themselves, their descendants, and all who might join them, that without fail they would observe these 2 days in accordance with what was written in this letter and at the appointed time every year, and that these days would be remembered and observed throughout every generation, every family, every province, and every city, and that these days of Purim would never cease among the Jews, or their memory be lost by their descendants.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, harav et riveinu v'hadan et dineinu v'hanokem et nikbateinu, v'hamashalem gamul l'chol oivei nafshanu, v'hanifra lanu mitzareinu. Baruch atah Adonai הנפרע לעמו ישראל, מכל צריהם האל המושיע. Deserving of praise are you, O Lord our God, ruler over the universe, who acts on our behalf, judges our cause, and avenges our wrong, who renders retribution to our mortal enemies and punishes our adversaries. Deserving of praise are you, O Lord, who on behalf of your people Israel judges all their adversaries, O God, the Savior.
Both the text itself and the blessings associated with us are things that should impact our lives, because they have in fact impacted the lives of our ancestors down through the generations. So we acknowledge that reality now when we respond with Etz Chaim, a tree of life, taking root deep in our lives so that we can have our days renewed as of old. That response is pages 96 and 97. Etz Chaim.
Esraim hi lama chazikim ba vetom keha meushar deracheha darchei noam vechol netivoteha Ashivenu Adonai Alecha v'nashuva Kadesh Yameinu kekedem Ashivenu Adonai Alecha v'nashuva Kadesh Yameinu kekedem. A tree of life it is to those who take hold of it, and happy are those who support it. Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. Turn us, Lord, to you, and let us return. Renew our days as of old.
And now with days renewed as of old, we're better prepared to stand in his presence, which is exactly what we're going to do now. Stand before him yet again and we respond in gratitude and in commitment, utilizing the words on pages 98 and 99. Uvnuko Yomar.
Uvnuko Yomar, Shuva, Adonai, Ribavot Alfei, Yisrael. When the ark rested, Moses would say, "Return, O Lord, to the myriads of Israel's families. Arise, O Lord, to your resting place, you and your mighty ark. Clothe your priests with righteousness. May those who have experienced your faithful love shout for joy. For the sake of your servant David, don't delay the return of your Messiah. Ba'avur David Abdecha, al teshev pnei Mashiach. Ki lekach tov, navati lachem, torati al ta'asovu. I give you good instruction. Do not forsake my Torah."
And please now greet one another with your imaginary hugs or whatever you use in its place and practice it. Yes, by the way, some actually do touch feet. Oh, and watch Patrice, there's another one out there.
Oh my God.
Actually, that's her breeding, that's great.
I'm good.
It's really good.
You know, it's interesting that because we have no one set way yet of doing this, we can experiment with all kinds of different ways.
It's conversation.
And it would be inappropriate for me not to do this for you, because that was the sign by which the priests blessed the people, and my background is the Kohanim, so.
Not good.
I'm sure many of us have been to a state fair, or perhaps several in our lives. In fact, you may have even taken your kids to the Florida State Fair, like we used to do. In which case, you may well have heard something like this. Step right up, try your luck, spin the wheel, win big prizes. How about you? Step right up, take a chance. What do you have to lose? It's all a game. Today may be your lucky day. Give your luck a try, spin the wheel. Step right up, take a chance. In fact, because of the closeness of the holiday, the barker may well have even added something like this. Try the luck of the Irish. Think calendar? Okay. Now that should raise a question. What does any of this have to do with Purim? Well, Purim breathes, literally, a strong carnival atmosphere. It's even traditionally celebrated in many circles with a Purim carnival, complete with all kinds of fun games, games of skill, games of chance. Furthermore, the whole story, or the scroll of Esther, which we've brought to the front here, seems to occur in a carnival-like atmosphere. It seems unreal and upside down. That's become more real in some circles of TV watching. If you're not familiar with that connection, don't worry about it. Just leave it as a picture. Unreal, upside down, and very random. Its very name, Purim, from Pur, means lots. Or in the alternate Bible at the end of your pews, the Living Scriptures, it simply translates it as dice. In other words, it implies chance. And the scroll, in fact, records some very odd events. A king getting drunk in public, a queen refusing the order of the king, a king deposing his very beautiful queen, something unusual is happening here. And what did Haman have to say about all of this? As you read between the lines, his response would be chance. Pure chance. Everything happens by chance. And now some 4 years later, after searching for a new queen to replace Vashti, King Ahasuerus, a lot easier to say from the Jewish way than Ahasuerus, which is the English way, so Ahasuerus, okay? Well, what does he do? He chooses Esther. She's a woman who does not reveal her nationality or heritage to the king. Now, would a king ever choose a woman as queen who hides her identity from him? Never. But Ahasuerus did. Very strange. But not to Haman. Just another chance happening. Mordecai, the leader of the Jews in exile, was sitting at the gates of the palace when he just happened to overhear a plot to kill the king. So he reported the culprits to the authorities. He was not rewarded for this. Rather, the event was merely recorded in the king's diary or annals. A man who saved the king's life, not rewarded? Bad luck for him. That's what Haman would say. It's just a matter of chance. Now, in order to understand all of this, it's important to take another look at the scroll of Esther. Perhaps the theme of the fascinating story might be a state of affairs in which everything is topsy-turvy, the exact opposite or very antithesis of what it appears to be, upside down and chaotic. And so we have King Ahasuerus, who's robed in his royal robes. I know that's somewhat redundant, but it happens to be good Hebrew. He's wielding his, I almost said magic scepter. Boy, Harry Potter's got it. That's okay. He's wielding his majestic scepter in the manner of an omnipotent Oriental emperor. That's not easy to say quickly, I just discovered. But in reality, what is he? He's a vacillating weakling. He's maneuvered and manipulated by those around him. Haman is painted as the arch villain, destroyer of Jewish people in Persia. But in reality, it is Haman who reminds the Jews, including Mordecai and Esther, that they are Jews and are not Persians. Apparently, Esther has the Persian name of the pagan goddess Astarte. She lives as the queen of a Persian king and attempts to hide her Jewish identity. But when the chips are down, she is in fact Hadassah, who reveals her hidden identity and even puts her life on the line to save her people. Mordecai's name sounds an awful lot like the Persian god Marduk, and he spends his days as an advisor to the Persian king. But his deep Jewish commitment emerges when he risks his career and even his life by refusing to bow down before the chief advisor to the king, Haman. And it's precisely when Haman appears to be at the very height of his influence and prestige that Queen Esther invites him to the party for Ahasuerus. And he even celebrates this by preparing a tree on which to hang Mordecai. And on that very same night, an insomniac king finally remembers that Mordecai must be honored for having saved his life. And so Haman's luck seems to have run out, or begins to run out. In fact, the tree that was prepared for Mordecai ended up being the executing agent for Haman himself. So the events we are witnessing in this scroll are very different from what they seem to be. There is something behind the curtains, behind the chaos and the randomness, in a very real way. But most astonishing of all is God himself, whose name does not appear, as I remind you from time to time, does not appear even once in the entire scroll of Esther. Esther, the name sounds very much like Esther, which is Hebrew for hidden, and so he appears to be hidden. However, as the miracle story arrives at its climax, the discerning reader clearly understands that there is an invisible finger of God, so to speak, that has directed the entire drama from behind the curtains. And I use the term finger of God in this case instead of hand of God, which is just as appropriate, because finger of God reminds us of the God who actually etched the 10 words that we've been reading about over the past several weeks on those stone tablets. And the finger of God is a phrase that Yeshua the Messiah himself used to make a direct connection of himself with the one who wrote those commandments. So yes, the finger of God behind the scene, directing the entire drama from behind the curtains. Directing it from the beginning with the rather convenient disappearance of Vashti to make room for Esther, and concluding with Ahasuerus mistaking Haman's begging and bowing before Esther as sexual advances. Nothing in this world of appearances is as it appears to be. And so it's critical, it's crucial that we look behind and within what's in the scroll in order to perceive the true reality that is beyond the surface appearances. In other words, to perceive the order behind the chaos. Now, in a striking way, the book of Esther mirrors the upside-down, topsy-turvy world of exile. I mean, look, Israel's destiny is governed by an emperor who is more klutz than king, is threatened by a villain who really belongs in vaudeville, and is saved through the charms of a secret young Jew, a gal who just happens to be queen. Such oddities led the Jewish sages of old to ask, so where is Esther mentioned in the Torah? Why would they ask that question? Because someone so significant in our history should be somehow prefigured in the Torah. Their answer is striking. It comes near the very end of the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 31. It's in the phrase, I will surely hide my face, Hebrew, astir panai. And you can hear her name resonating there. I will hide my face on that day. So Esther's very name reminds us of Hester Panim, the hiding of God's face. And her story unfolds in a day when God, for all practical purposes, seems hidden. Because remember, he's not mentioned in the scroll. When the king issues an irreversible decree that all Jews in his empire are to be destroyed, quick aside, a bit of history and a bit of geography. All Jews in his kingdom, in his empire. How many Jews would that have been? Persian Empire? All Jews. Because there were no Jews outside of his empire. I don't know if you had realized that before, but just be aware of that. Okay. Where was I? Okay, all Jews in his empire are to be destroyed. There is no divine intervention. There is no divine spokesman in the person of a great prophet or sage. Only cousin Mordecai. But wow, what a cousin Mordecai. Who tells Esther that she must do something. And Esther does the right something, which saves her people. Among the many lessons of Purim, therefore, are those it gives for the times when God seems to be absent. As the old song goes, he may be late, but he's always right on time. Conversely, God may be on the way, but he hasn't showed up yet. So, what are we to do in the meantime? Easy answer. Follow Esther's example. First, Esther does not give in to fear. Now look, fear tempts us in two opposite but equally fruitless directions. We either freeze and do nothing, or we panic and do everything. Well, not quite everything. Do something crazy. It's not hard to imagine the queen hiding in her chambers, waiting for someone else, any someone else, to do something. After all, look what happened to Esther's predecessor, Vashti, when she took decisive action. She was deposed and disposed of. Well, Esther recognizes this danger, but she is not intimidated. She avoids the extremes of both freezing and of panic. Instead, she organizes 3 days of prayer and fasting to back up the steps she must take, which she describes this way. And so I will go to the king, which is against the law. And if I perish, I perish. That's nice old English, but it still flows very nicely. You see, ultimately it's a matter of perspective. And as we all know, perspective is absolutely essential. Now, a month earlier, Shmuley had a bad car accident involving a rather large truck. Weeks later, in court, the trucking company's well-paid attorney was questioning Shmuley. "Didn't you say at the scene of the accident, 'I'm fine'?" asked the lawyer. Shmuley responded, "Well, I tell you what happened. I just put my dog Moishele into the—" "I didn't ask for any details," the attorney interrupted. "Just answer the question. Did you not say at the scene of the accident, 'I'm fine'?" Shmuley said, "Well, I just got Moishele into the car and was driving down the road." At which point the attorney interrupted again and said, "Judge, I'm trying to establish the fact that at the scene of the accident, this man told the highway patrolman that he was just fine. Now, several weeks after the accident, he's trying to sue my client. I believe he's a fraud. Please tell him to just answer the question." However, by this time, the judge was quite interested in Shmuley's story and said to the lawyer, "I'd like to hear what he has to say." Shmuley thanked the judge and proceeded. "Well, like I was saying, I just loaded Moishele into the car and was driving him down the highway when this huge truck ran the stop sign and smacked my car right in the side. I was thrown into one ditch and Moishele was thrown into the other. I was hurting real bad and couldn't move. I heard Moishele moaning and groaning and moaning. I knew he was in terrible shape. Just then, a highway patrolman came along. We could hear Moishele groaning and moaning and groaning. So he went over to him. After he looked at him and saw what terrible condition Moishele was in, he took out his gun and he shoots him. Then the patrolman comes across the road with his gun in his hand. He looks at me and says, "So how are you feeling?" "No, Judge, what would you say?" Well, Esther knew what had happened to Vashti, but she still said, "I will go to the king, and if I perish, I perish." And she said this despite the fact, quite shockingly, that God seems nowhere to be found in the book of Esther. He simply does not appear. He is never mentioned. And as I've reminded you from time to time, even though there is no express mention or reference to God in Esther, he is clearly, even pervasively present. His absence tells us that he works even when he is not recognized to be acting. Through the natural course of human events, through the actions of his people, God providentially preserves his people. He does it without a miraculous intervention or by a big dramatic display. In other words, he works behind the scenes quietly, without violating anyone's free will. Interestingly enough, this becomes a pattern for God working throughout history, where it perhaps, let me change that. It doesn't become a pattern. It illustrates once again the pattern for God working throughout history. The name of God, however, does appear hidden. Remember Esther, as the name implies, hidden in the book of Esther. He's definitely there behind the scenes. You see, as it turns out, there are 5 places in the book where God's name appears acrostically. In 4 places, what is often called the sacred name of God, the Tetragrammaton, or the Yod-Heh Vav-Heh, is formed by 4 Hebrew letters appearing in 4 consecutive words. Another acrostic contains the phrase Eyeh, part of the phrase Eyeh, Asher Eyeh, where God is describing himself, often translated I am, but as we better understand it, I will go with you. But here again is another name of God. It is the same name that God stressed in the burning bush story in Exodus chapter 3. And then each column of the Megillah, except the first, starts with the Hebrew word ha-melech. Hebrew students? The king. Right. In other words, it's designating God as sovereign, even though not seen. Now, these, shall we call them hidden references to God, indicate God's secret workings. So the non-mention of God's name does not negate his activity, but instead emphasizes it, as is made clear by the book of Esther. And so we heard it read at the very end of the book of Esther. Celebrate the feasting, gladness, and the giving of gifts, these historic days because God was acting behind the scenes, when the Jews were saved from their enemies, when their sorrow was turned to gladness and their mourning into happiness. You'll recognize that phrase from elsewhere as well. So celebrate it as a reminder of the time when Haman, the enemy of all the Jews, had plotted to destroy them at the time determined by a throw of the dice, and to remind them that the king issued a decree causing Haman's plot to boomerang, and he and his sons were hanged on the gallows. It reminds me of a principle that was already in place that we should know about because we have heard it already. Genesis chapter 50 and verse 20, when Joseph addresses his brothers and says, that which you intended for bad, God turned into good. In other words, God is the one who turns curses into blessings. And interestingly enough, even the very name of Purim reflects this very idea also, because the casting of the dice produced the date for the decree for the extermination of the Jews. But in fact, the dice were flipped. And that's not what happened. And so we celebrate, if you would have it, the flipping of the dice. After all, remember what God had promised. Exodus 33:14. He said to Moses, I will go with you. I will go before you. At the very end of the book of Deuteronomy, in that same chapter that I referenced before, relating to the name of Esther appearing, God promises, I will never leave you nor forsake you. And then in the very next book, just to make sure we get it, Joshua chapter 1, we're reminded, or Joshua's reminded, take courage, for the Lord your God goes with you wherever you go. Oh, and by the way, in Messiah Yeshua, we too can discover that when we do what we can do, even though we may feel powerless, his power and his spirit will be at work in us. We return then once again to the words of the great Rabbi Rav Shaul. I can do all things through him who strengthens me, Philippians 4. God may be delayed, he may be hidden by circumstances and seemingly away on other business, but his presence becomes evident as we do what we are assigned to do. And because of this, and based on the clear evidence of the book of Esther and that story there, we can confidently and wholeheartedly respond, even when he is hidden and seems absent. And in fact, this is why we can regularly respond as we did this evening. We thank you for you, O Lord our God, paragraph 6 of the Amidah. You are our ancestors, God, for all eternity. You are our rock, our shield that saves through every generation. That includes ours. So we trust our lives into your loving hands. We are always in your keeping. Your wonders and miracles are with us daily, evening, morning, noon. O you who are all good, whose mercies never fail us, compassionate one whose faithful love never ceases, we ever hope in you. You are the God of salvation and deliverance. Blessed are you, O Lord, whose name is good and to whom it is pleasant to give thanks. And so, we have the opportunity to follow the example of the Purim heroes, Mordecai and Esther. And we can say, as our ancestors did, everything you have told us, Lord, Exodus 19:8, we will do. And we too then can become heroes at Purim. So I say to you in anticipation of the holiday, Chag Purim Sameach. Take to heart the examples of the heroes and become one yourself. Take a minute or so in quiet to reflect and respond. As Dr. Patrice indicated at the very beginning, and as the Book of Esther reminds us, we do live in a topsy-turvy world, in the upside down, so to speak. But the Elena reminds us on pages 102 to 107, there will come a time when all abominations will cease, and the world will be perfected, turned back right side up. It's the time of the kingdom of David's greater son. We anticipate that, as well as now acknowledge yet again our responsibility as we stand facing Jerusalem and respond with the Elena, pages 102 to 107.
Aleinu l'shabech Adon HaKol, l'tekedu l'yotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kavoye ha'aratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo samchelkeinu kahem, v'nor aleinu kekal hamonam, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוצר הארץ ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל ושכינתו זו בגבי מרומים הוא אלוהינו אין עוד אמת מלכנו אפסולתו ככתוב בתורתו וידעת היום והשבותה אל לבבך כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. It is incumbent upon us to praise the Master of all, to exalt the Creator of the world, for He has made us distinct from the nations and unique among the families of the earth. Our destiny is not like theirs. Our calling is our task. We bow down and acknowledge before the King of Kings that there is none like Him. For He stretched forth the heavens like a tent and established the earth. Truly there is none like our Lord and King. As the Torah says, you shall know this day and reflect in your heart that it is the Lord who is God in the heavens above and on the earth beneath. There is none else. We hope, O Lord our God, to soon behold your majestic glory, when all abominations shall be removed and all false gods shall be at an end. Then shall the world be perfected under the rule of the Lord Almighty, and all mankind shall call upon your name. For to you every knee must bow and every tongue declare that you are God. Reign over us soon and forever. May the kingdom of David's greater son be established forever. For then shall the words be fulfilled. The Lord shall be king forever, and the Lord shall be king over all the earth. On that day the Lord shall be one, and his name one. V'ne'emar Rahaya Adonai Lamelech ha'aretz Bayom hahu Yeh Adonai echad U'shamo
You may be seated. And as Gary walks forward, we're preparing ourselves for the last part of the service, which